We should have added Jack and Carson's picture with our family picture. I felt like they were some of our sons out there. We were on a mat with them or around with them quite a bit. And I would have loved that.
Well, we haven't done a recap like this for a little while. We've been traveling.
A little busy traveling.
Yep. Yeah, we did San Diego with Danny. That was super fun for episode 6. Episode 7, I actually had to work, and so we were separated, but we still did our live Q&A. Episode 8 was epic because we were down in Machu Picchu. Like that was crazy, awesome. Peru. Yeah. And now we're episode 9 and 10. So for this one, though, we've been talking for quite a while about wanting to do this episode, even though we knew we couldn't tell anybody. We knew we were off, but there was some special people that we wanted to invite on during this episode. And fortunately, the stars aligned and we had a chance to bring them in with us. So surprise, I'm going to first bring in this next duo with this little intro.
I cannot believe this is real life.
My logical brain just shut down.
We're gunning for first.
I'm sorry, I can't. This is the best.
Balls are out. Don't you give up.
Is everybody ready to race?
Actually, yes.
On the amazing race!
We're doing it.
This season, there are more surprises than ever before.
These seasons of surprises will give you a heart attack.
This is the first time, the first ever Amazing Race First. Big surprise.
We have no idea what's going next.
I look like a butterfly, seem like a bee. Now home, doggy dog, why are you looking at me?
Doesn't matter how many no's you get, all it takes is one yes.
I don't lose. Sounds like trouble in paradise.
You have to force things to go well.
You're amazing, Alyssa! You okay, Alyssa?
It's been in the cornfield.
The Amazing Race. New season begins CBS Wednesday, March 5th.
Best ever.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh.
I have not looked at that in months now.
Yeah.
It's so funny now looking back at that and now realizing they must have edited us out of all of those shots in the actual show. They must have used AI.
We were doing that the whole time.
We were there. We were doing all those things.
I don't remember you guys showing up in that premiere quite so much. And then that episode,
strange.
That was the best.
Like, wow.
Whose idea was it to do that?
I
have
remember,
no idea.
Actually. Of course, you guys know, like, right when the race begins, you're like, you just want to put out as much stuff as possible. And I think we had received a couple of messages that were like, I didn't really see you guys in that trailer.
Yeah.
And we were like, it was at the crossroads of us being like, what can we make? And receiving those messages. And so we were like, why don't we just do it again?
Why don't we just put ourselves in every single scene?
Yeah.
We felt the same way. Like when that premiere came out, that preview,
we were
was just like, where are we? We were made some kind of an impact. But.
Yeah, well, we can make you your own version if you'd like.
Yeah, we will.
Actually, can you make it at the finale with whatever team is running to win? Can you just put
put my face on the winners?
Like, kids, I told you, I won. I was not eliminated. I won the Amazing Race.
Oh,
absolutely!
Listen,
oh my gosh, we are so thrilled to have you guys with us. I mean, if you tune in to Carson and Jack on social media, they're on Instagram, Carson McAlley, Jack Dodge, Dweeb Wars, and they're on YouTube, Dweeb Wars with Carson and Jack, and that Please Don't Kill Us that you guys do with the Dungeons and Dragons is just phenomenal. And these guys have been putting out the most hilarious content the entire season. Like it wasn't just that preseason, like they're running in heels, they're doing lip syncs, like all this just awesome stuff. Just really promoting the show, but it's because you guys are just massive fans of the show. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, massive fans of the show, and also just massive fan. I think this is like that is where our interests align, is like making crazy stuff on the internet and being fans of the show. It's like we went turbo mode because it's like we love being silly and doing crazy stuff anyway. So like,
and I also think just as like a ultra fan of the show, but I often feel like Amazing Race doesn't get its flowers compared to like Survivor and Big Brother. And I was like, well, how can we contribute to maybe making some people watch and you know, love the show? And so that's what we were trying to do. But yeah, hopefully that worked a little bit.
How many times did you guys audition for The Amazing Race?
Twice, actually.
Twice.
We auditioned actually, what's crazy is when Nick and Mike were saying that they had auditioned for 7 years, we auditioned
7
years ago.
Oh,
So
interesting.
the same season they started to audition, but
Oh my
we
gosh.
didn't pick it back up after that. And I think we knew somewhere in the back of our minds, we didn't hear anything. And I think somewhere in the back of our minds, we knew like it's not the right time. Like we were living in 2 different places. We like were in such different places in our lives. We were so sort of unconnected by job, unconnected by place. Like, and then when we decided to apply this time, every aspect of our lives was so intertwined. It felt like we were really a unit, you know, applying for the show. So yeah, we knew this time we were like, this is the angle. But
I feel like anybody who's watching the season or watching any of the stuff that you do, like you guys, again, aren't afraid to be silly. Like you're not afraid to like generate some laughs, even at the cost of yourselves.
Yeah, you're authentic.
But I think that's what people resonate with. They can appreciate the fact that like these guys are authentically themselves. They're not editing themselves to look a certain way. It's just kind of like, oh, this is who we are.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of that was like, when we first, I'm sure you guys experienced this as well. When we first got to like orientation, we saw there were 14 teams and just comparing ourselves to everyone. And honestly, I think being like, okay, I don't know if we actually have a chance at this. So like, let's release the expectations of ourselves and just like really enjoy this experience. And I think obviously like we've been so lucky, and I'm also very proud of what we've been able to do,
for sure,
you know, with skill, but also a lot of it's luck. But I think part of it is just like releasing that like super high expectation and being like, this is probably a once in a lifetime opportunity, and like let's have a complete blast. Because like I don't know that we'll get to do it again, you know?
I also think like I am so grateful for our Dungeons and Dragons stream, because doing that for many, like we had, by the time we were going on the race, we had been doing it for like 2 years. And I think that is a weekly practice of putting yourself on camera, but being yourself and being, and also looking silly. Like we're doing silly voices, we're doing crazy stuff. And it's one thing to do that in a group, like in a living room, right? Where it's like a safe, quote unquote, like, you know, space, but it's another to be like, you know what, I'm gonna make the world, who cares what they think, like I'm just gonna shout it out to the world. So we had some practice in that, and I think that helped us a lot in not attaching too much to like how we were gonna be viewed. It's just like we know how to just be ourselves on camera.
I love it.
Yeah, unapologetically yourself. And I think people
would you guys ever audition or try to be on a different reality show? Like does Survivor or Big Brother or a cooking show, or I don't know, any?
I heard Carson loves cooking shows. I heard Carson.
Maybe worst cooks in America. I had applied, speaking of 7 times, I've applied for Survivor 7 times.
Lori's done 6.
No, I was 6. I'm 6.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, never really made too much progress. I think it's partly, again, was just like when we applied, that was around the same time we applied together for The Amazing Race for the first time. And it just like, I don't feel like I had myself figured out. And also I think like I'm like super glad, honestly, that like none of that worked out, because The Amazing Race, I think like just was the perfect show for us. Like being able to do it, I think The Amazing Race is the funnest show probably to do, because like you actually have someone you can trust, you know, like, you know, 100% they have your back.
They're not going to stab you in the back, right?
Yeah, like on Survivor, like even if you're like, they would never ever, like we are the tight duo, like they might get you, you know, and I think that just made this experience like all the more fun for us.
But I think it is a good like first dip your toe in the water too, because you do get used to like the internet, you get used to people responding to who you are and stuff like that. So I think it's sort of mellowed. I remember before we went on, we were like, no, I wouldn't do this show or wouldn't do that show. And then after now developing that like thick skin of like,
why not?
I don't care what people are
I'll
saying.
do anything.
Yeah, it's like,
hit me up.
Life is about going crazy.
Traitors.
Like,
I would love.
Oh, traitors would be my favorite for sure.
You guys so would, right? Like,
oh my
gosh.
Oh, Epic.
are made for the TV. Like you guys
Oh,
would be so
well, I don't know about
good.
that, but
You so are. You so are.
It's fun. We have a blast. And again, we're, I think, similar in the sense that like we've been far enough in this life where we know who we are. We're going to be unapologetically ourselves.
Yeah, and I run this vlog, and I'm
that.
on Instagram,
Right.
and we do silly reels of dancing or making fun. Like my big reels that have gone, 50 million
Super viral.
are like making fun of Scott or making fun of my kids or making fun of me. Like it's just funny and silly and dumb, but it's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Speaking of, I think this introduces the first little segment that I want to do. So you guys did an amazing job with your whole kickoff for the promotion stuff. You took pictures, you had a photo shoot. You killed it with this photo, but I did want to do a little segment of who wore it better.
This is so crazy.
It's everything.
Legit, I don't know how we ended up with the same exact costumes.
So I was so excited because I'm like, we just traveled and we can't tell anyone. We just traveled the world. And like, this is a perfect costume for us. And then you guys come out with the better version, the 2.0 version.
I don't know.
I wouldn't say that. Did you guys post anything about this? Maybe subconsciously we were like,
so we posted that for Halloween.
Yeah.
And again, we knew what was coming up in March or February for the announcement of the Amazing Race. And so we're like, how could we tease it to an audience?
Like world travelers. Wink.
Right.
Okay,
so maybe you were on the mood board. You were on the mood board or something.
Well, I think because we're both biased, I think it's going to be hard to settle this debate on who wore it better without bringing in an impartial party but to introduce him properly, I do want to show this quick video.
Oh my gosh.
This is too funny. I had to dig deep in the archives to find this one.
Stop, you fool!
Wait, 10-time world record holder Joel Strasser? Were you in there the whole time?
12-time Guinness World Record holder, and yes, I was. I saw everything.
What are you doing in my house?
Stopping you from making a big mistake. Don't you read the warnings on these things? Q-tips aren't for your ears.
Then what do you do with them?
You put them in your beard.
You're telling me that they go in your beard? Wait.
Yes. Don't put in ear.
Put in beard.
Welcome to the show, Joel. What was the inspiration behind that?
That guy in that video with me, by the way, our cameraman during that video was Smythe, my friend from The Amazing Race. He was there.
So many angles.
The whole time. we had, and the three of us were in the army together. Me, Smythe, and Mumford were in the same platoon, and we were like inseparable. If the Amazing Race could have been a team of three,
oh, I love it.
Wow.
So, and to this day, the three of us, our kids are best friends. We are together all the time. So that's pretty awesome that he got a little love in that video.
You got a little shout out.
Yeah. But
so you have a tendency to put things in your beard. Tell me what that's about.
It started with toothpick. I broke the Guinness World Record for most toothpicks in a beard. And you should see, if you want to see something crazy, you should see the dude whose record I broke, because my beard is like a little goatee compared to this guy. His beard is just, it's enormous. And when I saw his world record, I thought there's no way I could ever beat that record. And I thought, well, I'll just try, and then I figured it out and I learned a pretty good technique. So started with the toothpicks, and then I just was like, I want to break as many records as I can. So I kept going.
Wow.
That is so amazing.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, so he's got a YouTube channel, Joel Nert, and talks a lot about all the different kinds of things that he tends to put in his beard. I found 12 world records that you kind of alluded to in that video, but I might be wrong, I heard.
Well, that video is a few years old, so now it's up to 17. And
7? Wow. Guinness Book of World Records 17 times.
Isn't that a process? Don't you have to like get like somebody to come out and like watch you do it and stuff? Like
it's the whole thing. Making it official is way harder than breaking the record.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
This is my little wall of world records.
Oh my gosh.
Cool.
That's epic.
Well, Joel, we are wearing our shirts.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow! Check it out.
Yeah,
I love it. Yes.
So
We
Joel
really
and Garrett came down for our episode 3 watch party in Salt Lake, and we had such a blast. Like you can see. In some
Well,
of
and that's the
photos,
one
we're
we won.
laughing.
So that was a cool.
That was a lot of fun.
But it was just so cool. And talking at that time, we knew we wanted to try to have Joel and Garrett on the show. You know, if we possibly could. And Joel at that point expressed to me that there was one in particular, because he had heard some whispers that the race might go to a certain area called Strasbourg, France. And I will show this real quick, because these are the social media accounts you can follow Joel and Garrett on. You know, Joel and Garrett's combined account, but also Joel Nert and the pesky Mr. Mustachio. But this is an interesting picture. Tell me about this picture.
So cool. Crazy.
So on the upper left, that's me in 2001 on the top of the Strasbourg Cathedral, up all those steps that Carson and Jack know so well.
Oh, yeah.
The view up there, I'm sorry you guys didn't get a chance to take it in. I know you wouldn't have had the opportunity to anything but read and run, but I lived in Strasbourg for 6 months when I was a missionary when I was 21 years old, I think 20, one of those numbers. And I love that area. I love the whole Alsace region. It's one of my favorite places in the world. And the little villages south of there, you guys got to go to one of them, and they're I don't know. I haven't seen the next episode. Maybe you go to other ones. I hope you do. But they are just the most magical place on earth as far as I'm concerned. Those buildings, the architecture, the people, the food. I just love the Alsace region. So I was tickled pink when I found out. And by the way, we flew into the Frankfurt airport on our seat too.
Yeah, you did.
But we didn't drive. We didn't take a train to Strasbourg. We drove to Cologne. And when we were on the freeway, there was a sign that was like Strasbourg this way. And I was just like, please, please. And anyway, fast forward to 2024. This is the picture on the right.
Second picture.
You can't tell because of that weird net in the old picture, but it's the same angle. You can kind of see.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see the church in the back.
Yeah, the double steeple. Yeah.
But so in 2024, this is the trip when we won first place on the Amazing Race. We used our one key cash from Expedia. Just plugging that. We used that for this trip. We didn't go to the Galapagos, which is the trip that Phil
you earned.
And so we went to a bunch of countries in Europe instead, and this was one of them. And I posted a picture on Instagram of my wife and I in Strasbourg in one of it was an iconic shot down the narrow street with the big cathedral in the background. It's so breathtaking. It's one of my favorite places.
Oh, cool.
And I posted that picture on Instagram, and Darren sent me a DM like really quickly, like within a few minutes, and he's like, Joel, we were just there. We just left. Don't tell anybody. And I'm like, no, I missed it, because I had this like little fantasy that like played, and I was like, dude, if I would have seen a team, I would have just
that would have been insane.
It would have been like, all right, where are you going?
Yeah.
I know this place.
How can I help? That's right.
It would have been so cool, but we were a week late. So
but still, that's crazy.
Still crazy. Wow.
So like legit, you were on that same lookout spot at the Notre Dame Cathedral that they were in just a week later.
Literally, probably the mud on our shoes probably
might still be on there.
Yeah.
And we were at the Pont Couvert where you got the clue for the jousting. We were on those same streets. I've never been to that cheese shop that you guys went to, but all the same streets and everything. Like we're all over Strasbourg. We stayed there in a little hotel just that faces the front of the cathedral. And yeah, I just love it. I can't say enough about how much I love Strasbourg and how jealous I am that you got to race there.
It was
was
like
so
the
cool.
most beautiful. It was so
Yeah.
unbelievable.
I've been loving, honestly, like, I feel like in these Europe legs, like Bulgaria and here, like we've sort of been able to like not just do big cities, but sort of like some smaller cities and country, little towns. They're so beautiful.
I also think like later and later, it's so crazy because later and later in the race, we become more stressed. So then obviously like we're not looking around as much necessarily, but like as a viewer, there's more and more time. So they're showing the regions a little bit better too.
Yeah,
like
true.
in Italy, there were so many like shots of the people hanging out of their balconies and things like that. I was like, oh wow! Later on in the season, you get to know the places really well. Which is cool. So
yeah, when
I think
you
they
don't
did
have
Strasbourg
14
well.
teams that you have to give background stories for in the first episode, you can feature more of the. So yeah, let's talk about the episode. Episode 10 aired last night, season 37. It was Up the River Without a Joust. And you guys started in Italy, Naples, Italy, ripping red. And where did it tell you guys had to go?
It told us that we had to go to a travel agency, Gems Travel Agency, to fly to.
Shout out to Gems.
Gems Travel Agency.
GEMS, not JIMS, right?
Yeah, no,
Gems, not Gems.
I will say one of the better travel agencies we went to on the show.
True. They were more efficient, but fly into Frankfurt, take the train from Frankfurt to Strasbourg. But it was drama all throughout. Like the journey was not an easy one.
No.
They kind of jumped ahead because there was so much in this episode that you needed to focus on. There were so many placements shifts and all these tasks were so cool, and the city was so cool. So I understood why they did it because it didn't necessarily affect things. But there was
even just getting to like there was so much that happened. Even just getting to like the cars where like in the show is where the episode started, and like to us it was like most of it probably was all stuff previous to that. So
firstly there was drama at the travel agency because we were trying to like teams were trying to suss out whether they should lie to like everyone else about
which flight
to get on. We all eventually ended up on the same flight, so it like didn't matter. But then
and we were all sort of lying to each other. Like it was mutual. Like it was
every single team go into the travel agency. I'll take what they have.
Exactly what they have.
Right. It's so easy to be like, so what did they do? Like for real, to the agent, but to each other, there was a lot of like kind of lying to each other, being like, oh, we might take this slower but direct option. And it was like,
I don't know. And then we like land in Frankfurt. We tried to take the train, but then it was delayed like 4 hours or something like that. And also there was drama. They oh my god, this train station traumatic to me because there was like we were talking to people and there's a Strasbourg, Germany, and there's a Strasbourg, France. And so when we asked for tickets to Strasbourg, us and Han and Holden get tickets to Strasbourg, Germany. And we were like, this is not right. And so we're trying to get it fixed. And
we didn't know that the train would keep getting delayed. So we were like, all these other people are going to get on the train while we're like waiting in line to talk to like customer support.
It was like their train was going to leave in like 20 minutes. Like it was so.
If it left on time,
we would have definitely missed it.
And it was the type of thing where it just kept getting pushed back like 15 minutes. And so we were like, thank goodness. But then also like, but we still need to get this done. And then eventually it all got worked out. Luckily, that's why they didn't show it. Everyone got on the same train because it also had been delayed so much. But then because it had been delayed so much, we all missed our connecting train. That was in Germany.
I don't know where.
I don't know. It was a tiny, tiny little town. And it was the type of thing where we like got off of the train that we were on. And then the next train, because we missed the connection, wasn't until it was the middle of the night and wasn't until like the morning, probably like 5.5 hours later. And we were all in this little train station, but it wasn't like a big train station where like you could go inside. Like there was no bathrooms. And there were like people around who were like at the very least, I don't know what they were up to, but like curious about production getting closer. And then so they were like, is this a security concern?
Right.
So then ultimately they ended up buying everyone a hotel room for like literally 4.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Like there weren't enough hotel rooms at one hotel, so we all just split them to
because you're in some kind of like a small town, border town or something.
So there we were in one with Alyssa and Josiah and maybe someone else, I think. Yeah, and then we had like a chaperone. Like one producer would go with us, and then the other people had different producers.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
And then we take the train to France. We get out, and a couple teams got directions to the Indigo parking lot, which is like was where we're supposed to go, but Indigo is like this brand of parking lot. And so we end up like the group starts moving in one direction, and we're like, I guess these people really know where they're going. Everybody starts running in this direction, and everyone gets lost like for like 15-20 minutes
before. Yeah, we're like sprinting, like exhausted by the time we get to the cars, because we go the complete opposite direction. And then it sort of ends up like, what is your risk tolerance? You know, like I think us and Anna and Jonathan and maybe Han and Holden like sort of decided like, okay, there's no way it's this far. Like, and so we sort of stop. And I remember like, I think Alyssa and Josiah and Brett and Mark like just keep running, and we're like, okay, we're going to just let them keep running.
Right.
And then that's sort of why they also started like further behind both those teams, because it's not like everyone even found the cars together. Like it was like there was already placement, like quite a amount of time between even just when like the leg started and we all get in the cars.
Well, and I'm guessing that based on the Council of Europe, and that's where we're going next, opening hours was 8 a.m. based on what they were saying. So we're talking like this is probably like 7:15 in the morning. You guys are scurrying around this train depot looking for cars.
Yeah,
probably something like that.
Yeah, something like that. We weren't there long waiting. We were a few minutes. Yeah, like 5 minutes until they opened. But yeah, it was crazy. It's just crazy how me and Jack were watching the episode. Like it was like we went through that Star Wars like light speed. We were
like they didn't show any of that. Yeah.
And I totally understand why. Like, you know, it didn't really affect what was happening on the leg, but there was just so much emotionally where we're at the beginning of the leg, where
drained.
all the teams are at is so. It was so intense.
But it's also like it didn't really affect it, but maybe it did, because like I don't know, like if Brett and Mark hadn't run further than everyone else, like maybe they would have been early enough to not be last. So yeah, it was a whole thing. But yeah, and all of that. I mean, you guys know this too. I feel like even like episode 1 of the show, how much they like how it felt so crazy to like be meeting each other for the first time, and just getting to LAX was like a whole thing, and they didn't show any of it. And like, but what's so fun is that like we just have all those memories forever.
Yeah. We still have
them, and it's kind of sacred in a way when it's not shown too, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Joe, were there times during your season where you felt like there were moments where there was a pack together and you had to make decisions about whether to stay with the pack or venture off on your own?
Oh yeah, and you saw it in the Sweden episode.
Oh, that's right.
That we won. We had the option to run with the pack, and we made the right choice that day. But we were just talking about this yesterday, because Smythe and I have been so lucky. We do these public speaking engagements, and we were talking about this thing about being consistent even when you don't feel motivated. And the example he uses in Sweden, we were in 4th place. There were 5 teams left, so it was like our leg 10. And there's we were significantly behind the 3 teams in front of us, but we were also significantly ahead of the 5th place team, and we knew we were solid in 4th place, and we knew that like we will get 4th place in this leg. That's just what's going to happen. But we decided like we're going to be consistent. We're still going to move as fast as we can. We're not going to let up at all. And as a result, the 3 teams ahead of us, they go this way, we go this way, and they get lost together. And it was so, even though it resulted in us getting 1st place, it still made me sad to watch it.
Sure.
Because I see the 6 of them just like doing this, just like they're all trying to make a decision together, and as a result, there's no decision made.
Yeah.
We ended up getting past them, and if you recall, if Phil Phil and everyone knew that we thought we were in fourth place when we got to the mat. And he was so cool the way he
Phil. Yeah, he
Phil
milks
plays that
it.
up.
Oh yeah.
He's a professional.
And they like got the perfect shot of us figuring out that we were actually in first place, and it was the best. But
That's awesome.
You run into that all the time, don't you? Where you have to like decide. Like, it'll be easier if I stay with the group, maybe, and maybe safer, but it's not in some cases like in that one. It's way
well,
better.
in this episode, Mark and Brett tried to do that. They were like, let's just follow them. Let's save time. Let's just follow them. And then they lost them. So
in the end,
that happens every leg of every season, like little micro movements.
As you start trimming the fat, and I'm going to call that because we got trimmed, but I'm just kidding. No, but as you start whittling it down to a tighter and tighter bunch, fewer and fewer teams, there's less room for error. And so you start questioning that in your mentality of, well, if that's where everyone else is that where safety lies?
Yeah.
Or do I take a risk and go out on my own and try something different, But Lori loved this part. I'm going to look at this picture in the top right. This is the opening of the Council of Europe. They're running up those stairs, and you guys are in third place. But what did you notice, Lori? I mean, everybody noticed it.
Well, and I'm going to ask you guys this because it looked like the front doors were right here where everyone was running, and you went to that little side door, or was it not like that? I couldn't really tell. You tell me.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it was. Yeah, it was kind of like luck in some ways too, because we ran up those stairs, and of course we're gonna go to the first doors, but those doors were locked, and we needed to be in the doors with the metal detectors.
And you can see it. There's sometimes it's good to not be first in a little bit, right? Because like they can go up and try the door, and immediately we are like, well, it's not that door, so at least let's try something else. So yeah, that gave us like a little bit of an edge. And then actually inside it was like a little bit more of a to do. We had to like meet with security. We had to go through security,
get a name tag
as like a visitor. Like it was actually quite official. And then you weren't allowed to like run inside. So then we were like all like power walking inside to get to the room, but it sort of ended up in the same, I think, way we went inside. But yeah, we lucked out a little bit right there.
Yeah.
And do you feel bad about that?
No,
you don't. No. It's just how the cookie crumbles, right?
Like, not at all. In fact, I think there was maybe there was like no one was really like that annoyed. It was like we all knew this was a challenge that was like really quick. But I think there was a little, at least, like eye rolling, being like, how could that happen? And but then I was like, I don't care. Sorry.
But I also weirdly, I think I definitely did. There was moments of like, oh shoot, y'all, went ahead of us a little bit, but it was kind of the perfect two teams for us to be with, because weirdly there was this moment in Italy where with the elevator, right? Where
we heard about that.
It went the other way.
Where it went the other way.
Exactly.
Han and Holden and Jonathan and Anna were the two teams who
they got the advantage on you.
They sort of listened to Josiah found this elevator, and then they went in it first. And so I think they were under the impression like whoever gets in is first. And so because we were with them, I think they also understood. It's like we're doing the same, It's like so I think it was all good, but
Did it ever cross your mind that Germany wasn't a member of the Council of Europe that you traveled through during this race?
I think I think if I remember correctly, we did take a little bit longer than that. I think it was like we were like in our heads thinking about it, and then like they had us present it because we had it right the first time. But it was a little bit of a trick, but like I don't know. To me, it was like, it's the Council of Europe. It's the name. So I wasn't going to like go for anywhere that I knew wasn't in Europe. And I think that was maybe even one of the giveaways of it. It was like, well, why did we even fly into Germany? It was like, wow. And I get it is close to Germany.
Right.
But like, it was sort of a trick, but
it was a little bit of a trick, but also what's weirdly like because of the moments that you didn't see, like it did feel like we were racing in Germany, like trying to get the tickets in Germany, and like they're gonna get on that train and we're not, and then like there were moments that felt like racing, even though you didn't see them in the show. So I think we sort of were like, Germany's got to be in that.
Well, and I feel like, you know, again, it was a funny moment when Alyssa and Josiah are there by themselves because Brett and Mark, I guess, at this point are so far behind that they can just start guessing one after another, just like serial guessing till finally they realize, okay, not United Arab Emirates, okay, not Indonesia. Well, what's left? Oh, I guess maybe Germany. You know, it's just funny. It's classic.
It was funny.
Yeah,
it was a cute little challenge. I like that. You know, I know some people are like, why are we doing these little challenges that take no time? But I like a little route info that's like just for a little fun. I don't know. You know.
So I'm gonna, for a moment, and I won't take very long, but I'm jealous. I'm jealous of how many active route infos you guys are getting in these last few legs, because if leg 5 was a little longer with a few more objectives after it, I feel like
a few more coconuts and a few less whatever it's called, a coral, less coral. That'd be great. That'd have been great.
It's so true. I mean, it's
I feel like they have it's that way now because there's so many less teams and they still have to fill that hour and a half. They're just having to go a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's just it feels, and we were talking about this too, it feels very different, those legs to these legs. Like when you have a lot of route infos, it does feel like sometimes like a marathon, not a sprint. And I was saying this to him. We actually just like recapped our recap, but it wasn't live.
Yeah.
But we were talking about like you actually don't have like in like your leg, right, where it was pretty linear and there was like a limited number of you know, activities and places we were going. You had to be like perfect, right? And in these ones, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be good. You know what I mean? And you have to be like good across the board. But like, if you get slightly lost, you know, for 5 minutes, it's really not that big of a deal. In this one where you're going all over the place, but like in those earlier legs, like it might be.
Yeah, you get sidelined for 6 minutes for a bird, and that could cost you a race.
Right.
Well, and I feel like that's what Han and Holden said at the laundry. They were like, we don't have to be perfect. We just have to like do a good job. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the bridge. You guys go to the water crossing.
Yes,
I know. I loved how excited you guys are for every challenge, and somehow it relates to you. And I just love it. But sometimes they look like jumping out of the airplane. I would have been like, "Oh my gosh, no, thank you." But I feel like every challenge, you two are like,
"Yay!" It's like Christmas morning.
Yes.
I mean,
it's fun watching your reaction.
We all know how special this show is, right? Like being able to go somewhere or do something that you had no idea that you were going to do. Like as someone who hates planning, it's my dream show because I get to travel and not plan. And also I think these challenges, like they don't actually necessarily have to do with anything that we are like good at, but yet we find ways to be like, this is perfect for us, even though it's not.
But I do think like getting into these Europe legs, like it does feel more medieval. It feels more like, regardless of what the skills are needed for these things, it feels like a fantasy that we like. It feels like Lord of the Rings. It feels like Dungeons and Dragons. It feels like these sort of medieval themed sort of things that we really love. So I think it's easy to get excited about that. But I also think that we just learned from our, you know, hardship in Bulgaria of being lost for so long that we were like, I actually feel like we are better when our mindset is really good. So it's like, regardless of how much it relates, regardless of how, you know, what do we find exciting about it, you know? And how can we laugh at ourselves when, which is easier said than done, but how can we laugh at ourselves when we're not good? Is like, that's going to keep it light.
You're literally laughing at yourselves in this top picture. Why? What are you laughing about?
Oh, Carson.
Well, I said a bad word.
Oh, somebody's got a potty mouth.
Go sit in the corner. Time out.
And that was the biggest blurb, like blockage, like
half my face.
Well, that was wild.
Famously, Carson does say he has the biggest mouth in North America.
I
so
do. I have a. It was part of the audition. I was like, any eating challenges, which I did eat that
You're
yogurt.
like, I got this.
I was like, I'm in. I can eat. My mouth is large, but yeah, they. Really
I've got a question, Carson, about the jousting. Did you take your shoes off?
Yes.
No, I actually kept my shoes
Most
on.
of the teams did not. I noticed that Han had her shoes off and took her shirt off as just her sports bra and shorts, but people had shoes on, and I'm like, why are your shoes on? And I couldn't tell if yours were on.
Oh, his are on. Yeah.
Yeah, mine are on. So I actually didn't. So people have been talking about the shoes on or off situation in
all season
for a lot of people, but I had never competed in those challenges. So I wasn't on. We didn't do the e-foil because we got the fast forward.
Oh,
and
that's
then, right. What else? Your surfboard you did. So
did you take them off for Coral?
We did take them off for Coral.
I'm sure you did.
But see, that's just a swim thing. This was about I started to sense, I was like, I think it is about balance. And so it was the determination of like, I don't know what this boat is like, but will my shoes give me better grip to balance?
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know if it was the right move, but
maybe it was manifestation being like, I'm not going to fall off of this. Like, I'm going to get it on my first try
right.
and I'm not going to get wet and we're going to be out of here.
I'm going to bring my phone in. I'm going to bring my Birkin in. Yeah.
Well,
so did you struggle at all the rest of the leg with wet socks and shoes? Just like,
no, I mean, everything. I mean, I remember immediately coming out, I was like, shoot. it doesn't feel great, but I do remember like everything we got was like moisture wicking, and also it was so hot in all of these legs. It was so hot. You guys remember?
Oh, it was. I didn't know. It didn't look hot in England at all when you guys were
France.
I'm sorry, France. Sorry, France.
Yeah, it still was hot, and I don't know. Also, maybe the race brain, like. You
don't
focus
care.
on it less. Yeah. I'm like, this whole thing is focusing on G's. You know,
Jeez. Right. We're done with water jousting. That's behind us.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the head-to-head. It was the twist for the episode, and it was a roadblock, so you had to choose one of you. Was there any hesitation in who was doing this?
Not really. I think it was, again, a product of I had done more roadblocks, so that was definitely one. Also, we just consider Carson to be like the stronger person, I think, between the two of us, and so I think we thought that might have something to do with it. But now knowing it, I'm like, I mean, you did fantastic, but now knowing that a lot of it has to do with like center of gravity, like I think if you're shorter and leaner, actually that might have been the better choice. But yeah, no, that's sort of just what we were thinking.
Yeah. Well, because after this, we are 5
we're
to 5.
even. So then next episode, because we did the fast forward, we had like even more options than sort of everyone else because we missed a roadblock. And so
that's true.
In this next leg, if we made it to this leg, we knew that then we could make the choice of who would who would be best fit to the next roadblock, where other people just had to choose one of their the partner that had not done all the roadblocks. So we were like, let's keep that option open.
So Joel, you and Garrett, you're in this roadblock. Who's doing it?
Gosh, I hadn't thought about it. I think either of us would do equally well with this one. Whoever's most excited about it, probably. And that's why Carson and Jack are so good at stuff like this, because you get excited and you go in, and it's like, you guys have seen in multiple seasons people who open a clue and their immediate thought is dread.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not going to work. That's not going to get you through this race.
Fake it till you make it.
If you open it up and get excited. I mean, there was nothing more dreadful in my heart ever than finding out I was going to do the river dance. But I wasn't going to show it, though. I was just going to smile and be like, all right, here we go, because that's how you do it. That's the only way to do well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And also balancing that, I think the interesting thing that I was noticing in this episode with the head-to-head is, and I felt it myself, is there was something about being jousted off of that boat and dunked into water, dunked into a river with like algae, that it felt like
a clean canal. That canal.
No. And so I think I saw it in we saw it in Josiah, we saw it in Jonathan, we saw it like with Brett. Like there was a disappointment. It felt heavy to lose this battle. It was also so much tension because the boats were slowly going towards each other. And so it's a really interesting point you bring up, which is how to be excited and also not have expectation, like not be excited to do well, but just be excited to experience it regardless. I think is it's such a hard balance to strike, you know? But
it seems like it comes really natural for you guys though.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I also think that part of the mentality there is that you start to worry that if I can lose once, I can lose again. Like, am I going to end up being the one that dominoes all the way to the bottom? And then it's like,
well, and you're sleep deprived, and you're probably hungry, and now Carson's got wet feet, and now, and then you got to still be happy. It's a lot, and the camera's right there in your face, and he's asking you, "Hey, how do you feel about this?"
And I think also just the nature of the head-to-head, it being a true battle between you, and you're comparing yourself to someone else in a way that you don't in most challenges. Like in most challenges, okay, if someone passes you, they get there later and they pass you, that sucks. But like when it's you against them and they get to move on because you didn't get to, and now you're stuck here, I think it's a different comparison.
You didn't have to wait very long for Jonathan to already be there to go up against, right?
No, he was there by the time we got in the boat.
Because I think that's the scary thing is like if you're having to wait an hour because someone's lost,
oh my God, we waited.
Race would be impacted.
Yeah, we waited a long time at the intersection. We waited for the second plane, right?
Oh, that's right.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
Jonathan and Anna. So yeah, that, but at least in that, like we could, I spoke a little Japanese. I could ask people, what is this building? I could,
start hearing the drums.
Yeah. In this challenge, if I had to wait, I would just be like, there was like no practicing. So you just got to wait with the joust. Like, you can't really get on the boat or practice or learn anything that's helpful necessarily. So I think that's also a scary
I do kind of wish they would have done the head-to-head a little earlier on. So there was more competition. There was more rounds.
Oh, more teams, like in an earlier leg.
But like you have to like win best of 3 or something. Like it was a little bit more detailed. Like I thought it was awesome, but then it was over so quick. I'm like, well, that's it.
Yeah.
I wish there was either more teams or a little bit more to it.
Yeah,
I did think in this leg they placed it perfectly. I feel like I've not enjoyed the head-to-heads that were right before a pit stop because it pretty much dictated your finishing. The fact that there was still 2 more challenges after this was awesome. So from here we go on to
I was going to say the most stressed I've ever been as a fan of the Amazing Race watching are the head-to-heads where you're getting eliminated if you're at the end, like the potato race in Belgium. Like that is so stressful. Even I guess I put myself in the situation mentally as like, what would I do in this? But I was actually really relieved when I saw it was a head-to-head and that it was a time penalty and not it's at the end of the leg and now you're eliminated.
Yeah, totally.
It's good TV, but it's so stressful to watch.
Well, it's that game design thing of like you want it to be half luck, half strategy. Like the best games are that, and so it's that thing that it takes away all sort of strategy, kind of, if it's just like, oh, we know exactly how it's gonna go. Like you still want some hope needs to be alive that someone can still make it right. Like and if we can, if the games can give you that hope all the way to the end, it's like,
and they did. I mean, this was why it was perfectly placed, because Brett and Mark were
second
in last in the whole leg, and then somehow made it to second, like not long after that. So
and I do want to mention, because we talked about it in our live Q&A, we haven't talked about it here yet, but I did notice the mechanics of the joust had one boat kind of positioning itself but more docile, while the other boat was the one that was approaching. I think it did give an advantage to that one boat that was coming in to have some.
Well, everyone on that boat won. It was 100% winning boat.
So you were a little bit of a disadvantage, Carson, when you lost to Han, but then that rewarded you in the next round. So I'm just giving you a little bit of grace there that it's not your fault.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
physics.
Thank
it's
you.
Physics.
Yeah.
Physics.
Yeah, I mean, but to give props to Han too.
Oh my
I mean,
God, she's
she
amazing.
was
for sure.
perfectly also
Uh-huh.
like her, being a surfer and her
Yep.
stance,
And she knew to go down
also
and
being shorter. And I think like this was such a cool moment for her too.
so fun.
But
Very fun.
yeah, it's interesting.
Well, let's move on to the cheese.
Oh, delicious. Give me all the cheese.
So jealous. I want to
really
just say real quick.
that
I
good.
recognized multiple of these cheeses as soon as I saw them on TV.
Really?
I was like, why? Why could I have got this challenge? I knew the Munster. I knew the Camembert. I knew the Roquefort. I knew
the rock one.
I would have kicked butt at that.
Rockford.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you on your season had were you the
Mustard?
mustard?
Yeah.
Mustard.
Yeah, mustard. That's right.
Yeah.
I
I remember
know anything
loving
about
seeing that
mustard.
challenge.
So tell me how you guys were tackling this. Like you divided up 4 and 5?
Yeah.
We divided up 4 and 5. As we've seen, my palate is not so refined as a chef. And so I was like, Jack, you need to be taking five of these things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
hard.
really
it was tough.
hard.
Well, but did you guys notice when you go out and like he lifts it up and you see it, it's in one order. That does not change. Did that factor in? You could either go this way and sometimes he went that way, but it was in one order. So if you memorize the order, you didn't have to memorize the cheese. Does that make sense?
Yes, but actually how it was edited was that obviously when somebody got it wrong, they just edited that okay, next thing, right? But they went through everything. So at the end of all the cheeses, then they said just no. So you had no idea which one you got wrong.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you couldn't like game it, be like, okay, I got the second one wrong. So it was
So try
you
and
had no idea.
The edit was slightly off. Like I'm like, it's the same. Why are we struggling with this? Okay, that makes
So you're guessing in between each guess, but you had to go through all 9 for your attempt.
And then you're left with like, well, which one was wrong or which 2 are wrong or and they weren't in the same order.
Were taking notes, so you could take notes on your guesses.
I think you could when you're in the practice shop, you can do whatever you want. I think you aren't allowed to use them when you get to the performance area. But and they were obviously they weren't in the same order in the practice area as they were, I think, in the performance area. And also what was so difficult was when you're when you actually see them in the performance area. I don't know why I keep calling it that.
Yeah, that's okay.
But they're like in wedges, but in the shop, they're only in these tiny cubes. And so like there were like cheeses that had like blue lines or like mold or whatever different things in the wedge that like when you're in these little cubes, they don't show that at
it's just
all.
Creamy, so you don't see the blue. Like
so it was definitely like actually had more to do with like the taste aspect than visually.
And I noticed that in your very first attempt where you were struggling on that first one, because I think you were looking for a visual cue and it looked nothing like what you were expecting.
Yeah, exactly. I remember him
I don't know what cheese this is.
Yeah, I remember him taking off that thing and our eyes like widened. We were like,
what are we seeing?
So if you guys got to that challenge and you had the express pass, would you have used it right away? Would you have waited or saved it? What would you guys have done?
Yeah, what's going through your mind?
This is like woulda, coulda, shoulda, like hypothetical.
Yeah, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Of course, I would like to believe that I would have. I think Alyssa was spot on when she identified like Han and Holden were 40 minutes ahead of us and they're still here.
Right.
I think that
in clue.
Itself is like a really smart reason to play it. To be like, because in your head, your brain always wants to tell you like, but we could get it the first try and be out of here. Yeah. But I also always like to sort of try to think the opposite of what my first instinct is. And it's like, okay, yeah, we could get it on the first try, but what if it takes us 3 hours? What if it takes us way longer than Han and Holden? They were here for 40 minutes already. And so I like
that's what you said about the hay. I remember that. You're like, we could get it in 30 seconds or 3 hours. I remember that.
Right.
Yeah. You always balance your first thought. You could be like, oh, this will take forever, but what if it takes us 2 seconds?
What if it doesn't? Yeah. And so I think in this case, I would have liked to believe that I would have thought we should have played it, because then you're in first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For now.
Weirdly, I know that if we had the express pass, I think I would be looking to you for those answers. I feel like Jack has much more. You have much more of a numbers brain. You're a quantity.
Like analysis.
That's why. Yeah, he has this analysis brain. That's why you see all season he's been like predicting, like we've had 2 negatives, and so one positive twist might be coming up, right? Where it's like I'm better at sort of like the emotional or the creative or like things like that, and so you know
exactly
if you
with us.
Same.
And so if you explain, like I kind of would look to Jack to be like, what do you think we could make up in this, like. You know, how much time could we make up in this? How much time do you like? What time is it? Kind of like, you know, that's on you.
Well, and I think if we look at when the Express Pass was played earlier in the season, there's always that part of your brain that's saying, I've got to save it for a detour, because detours are notoriously more difficult tasks to accomplish.
Yeah.
And so I can also see how maybe Josiah, and he wasn't articulating it, but maybe he was thinking, no, this is just an active route info. Why would we burn an Express Pass on an active route info that we'll eventually get when detour might be coming and we need to save it for that, knowing we have to use it this leg anyway.
And I bet that would be running through my mind too. Like, I don't actually blame them. And ultimately, I don't think they made a wrong decision. Like, I know they were getting a lot of, or some flack online of people being like, what? But ultimately, like, to me, and I know people say this all the time and it's true, like Express Pass to me should be a defensive play. And you know, while they could have used it earlier, they still got second place. So like it works, you know, it worked. And I don't think that they ultimately like made a wrong decision. I think like they could have done it earlier.
They got out of there
more,
they needed to
but
get out of there.
They did what they had to do. And you know what? Like I think Alyssa said this, and I think she's correct, which is like when they can have a detour in front of them and they can just like do something where the cheese one was more of like you have to get it right and memorizing and whatever, but like with the other one they could just see something and do it, and there was not like these like question marks about like these things. Like they can do that and they did it well, and so like maybe it was the right decision for them. You know.
And did you notice how quickly they recovered? Because they, in that moment, they're like, yeah, I wish we would have done this 30 minutes ago, 40 minutes ago, but they kind of looked at each
dwell
other
on that.
Let's move forward. Let's not, exactly.
They
that made a huge difference.
They have a mental genius to that. Like the way that their mind works and the way that they can get each other's mind right is so special. Like I love watching their dynamic and how they know exactly what the other person needs, but they're never expecting anything from the other person either. It's not like you need to calm me down or something like that. Like it's just
what can I offer you? What can I give you?
It's like really crazy how they really
that's awesome.
Yeah, they have a
and
great
for being
mental
such
game.
a young couple. I mean, they're
they've only been married a few years, so it's great.
Figuring this out. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So we go to the detour. Did you know right away you were doing out to dry? I mean, that's obviously what you said. Why?
Yeah. We had been like, there were a couple sort of hard and fast, not hard and fast because obviously you never know, and we've been choosing detours that we thought were so much harder than other ones. Like I think you caught us saying the other day, like I think we chose all the wrong detours.
Or the roadblocks.
Roadblocks.
Yeah, we chose the wrong person every time for roadblocks.
True.
So whatever.
But I think that some of the rules that we had is like normally when it's a lot of something instead of one something, the lot is easier because you have to do them less perfectly.
You can just make progress. Like if in the scrubbing you have 25 garments or whatever, and like, you know, you're making progress as long as you're getting out the stains, where with for the birds, you have to do one thing exactly right. And if you don't see what's wrong, you can't. Like you just don't see what's wrong. And then there's no like getting better at it or making progress. So our like idea was like, as long as we can make progress in this race, it also feels better. I think it feels less stressful.
Totally.
Well, and I think you nailed it on the wood challenge, because again, as hard as that wood challenge was, you knew you were going to make progress. And that's how we felt about the coconuts. We knew coconuts was the right choice for us first, because we knew we were going to power through that quickly.
2 trips done.
And then it was a matter of dealing with the judging, right? the quirkiness of, did we get it right? And I think that's the frustration that they were dealing with For the Birds, was not seeing what was wrong when all they're just telling you is you failed.
Right. Yeah. And there's been some really, you never know what the judging is going to be like, right? And there's been some challenges this season where the answer is just no. Yeah. And this was one of those. And there's been some other ones where they like kind of guide you towards what went wrong. And yeah,
like the sumo wrestler when he bends over and shows you his gut. You're like, this is what you got wrong. This part right here.
Yeah, that was still tough. But that challenge, I will maintain that challenge for us was like our mental breakdown challenge. Like that was
insane.
But
why didn't we do mochi? Like that is the thing. That's where we learned all this. We have this hard to pass rule, but mochi was clearly the one with a lot more, like do a lot of one thing or do a lot of things rather than just one thing really right.
That's where we learned that.
Yeah, kind of that's where we learned that. But also, going back to what you were saying, Joel, about like mindset and keeping yourself excited and things like that, we also had at the back of our brain, something else we were juggling is like, we do want to continue to have this like mindset that I think helps us in the race to keep positive. And so a lot of times we chose the one that did seem more fun because we actually felt like it did help us do better. Yeah. We're calm, and so this one sounded sillier.
Those ladies.
Yeah, they should have a stand-up special.
Seriously. Do you have any of your friends or fans that follow you that could translate what those ladies were saying? Because
well, maybe Joel.
Joel, what were the ladies saying, Joel?
It kept coming across in the show as mumbles, like they weren't mic'd or anything.
Okay.
And I could tell it was something funny, but if I had the thought watching it last night, I was like, dude, if I did this challenge, I would have been joking with them the whole time.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and you're perfect for that too, because I saw on the Discord that somebody was saying that it was specifically Alsace, or I don't know. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it was like a specific dialect of French too. That was
that region.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't just like I'm not sure if Han actually heard what they were saying or could because she speaks French, but I wonder how different that is. Joel, maybe like.
Yeah, Alsatian is different, but everybody who speaks French or Alsatian also speaks French.
Right.
Okay, got it.
I don't know if they were speaking. Maybe they were speaking Alsatian, and that's why I didn't pick up much. But
yeah, it sounded like they were saying "yeah" instead of like "we."
Yeah. Yeah, someone said that they were. I thought it was just a dialect, but maybe it was a whole different. Maybe it was Alsatian.
It's a different language, and but only the older people speak it to that point. The young kids don't even learn Alsatian anymore. It's done.
My gosh.
Interesting.
Well, it seemed like they were saying, "Look at these cute boys. They look like my grandkids."
Right? That's what I was hearing.
That's what I was hearing.
They were just kind of so chatty with you guys, and you were like, "What are you saying?" It was just like it was a cute little banter, even though we understood nothing.
Nothing.
And it looked adorable. Yeah.
Yeah.
We convinced
ourselves that
out of there in first. You knew you were in first, or you weren't sure?
We had a hunch.
We were pretty sure. We knew that Han and Holden had left right before us or right after us, like right close. And so that the fact that they showed up very late to that, much later than us to the, we were out of there by the time they showed up, basically to the laundry. And so we were like, oh, I think we've done really well.
I think the only question mark was if Alyssa and Josiah had just gotten through the cheese regularly and then went to the other challenge and used their express pass.
Right. Yeah.
So I think we're either first or second. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
And this was how many first place for you guys?
They're third. Yeah. So wait, before we get to what you won, did you drive almost all the way up to the top? Because it seemed like you guys weren't having to run as far as some of these other teams. And what was the trip? How did you get up there?
It was actually, I think, again, we were awarded time because we were ahead. And so, but it was really, really tricky trying to get up this vineyard. There were so many different little paths. And there was this thing with, I don't know whether production did it purposely. I mean, I love if they did, but there was an amazing race. Like it was clearly an amazing race arrow, but it was like, it's hard to explain, but if there were like these two diverging paths, right?
And the arrow is like,
arrows
here, but it's telling you to go
the other
this way, which could be either road.
It could either be straight or it could be like this path. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
it's pointing to a path, but it's like, does that mean this way past that path, or does that mean this path? It ended up meaning this path, but it was really, really a tricky thing, and so a lot of
confused some people.
Yeah, it definitely it confused us. We actually went up, and then we realized this is probably not the right way. We came back. We talked to that same guy that a lot of other people talked to at that like sort of barn that was like right there. It was really confusing to get up there. But once you're on a road that you see another one of those signs, that was it. We knew where we were going. And then I think everybody, at least I definitely saw Jonathan and Anna and Han and Holden pull into that same parking lot that we were at. So or like parking space.
Listen, Josiah, I was curious if that woman actually was part of production, and like if that was also a legal parking space to where they could then run up. You know, I was curious about her. Who is that lady?
She's just on a smoking break. That's what it looked like.
So Alyssa and Josiah literally parked in a field and ran up the side of the vineyard like the steepest slope part. Because they ran into the lady that was on ATV.
This morning on Discord? Something
he was
about
on
the
doing
parking.
a little Q&A on Discord. And
it didn't say you have to park.
It didn't say
in this
you
thing,
must.
so that's why they felt like they should.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Difference.
So that allowed them to run further versus having to park closer, you know, kind of thing. So, but yeah, they definitely expended some extra energy getting up to the big lady with the bow. Is that the biggest bow you've ever seen in your life?
I mean, JoJo Siwa, watch out. Like,
watch out.
Right?
Competing for
She's
biggest
coming
bow.
for you.
Guinness Book of World Records. How many Q-tips in that bow? Like,
yeah. So this is your third leg win. You guys won the very, very first one because of dance, and you got $3,000, $1,500 each. And then you won the next leg with the fast forward that got you the trip to Alaska. There was a bug. Trip to Alaska. And this was, what did you win for this one?
A trip to Helsinki, Finland.
Epic.
Which is amazing. We were actually saying before the race, we were like, we hope we go to Scandinavia, because we were like, we've never been to anywhere in Scandinavia, and I'm just like, I'm so excited to go. But of course, it's like I can't even conceptualize it now because no one gets anything for a long time. But yeah, like it sort of reminded me yesterday. I'm like, Helsinki, Finland.
Yeah,
like, really awesome. Yeah,
that is awesome.
Yeah,
Congratulations, you guys.
Well, we know Brett and Mark got eliminated, which was a huge bummer. Again, just some tough navigation there towards the end. It just didn't pan out.
Beginning and end.
Yeah. But what I have to say, just quickly, like a beautiful moment for them. I thought their final mat was just so sweet. It had me like tearing up. I had like a pit in my stomach. And then also like Alyssa and Josiah's mat where they
when they realized they're not going to be eliminated, they're in second place.
I know. It was like you, Joel.
They started me getting all teary-eyed, and then watching Brett, they were just so tender and just so sweet. But again, with them, the whole time they knew they were in the back almost the whole time, and they were never like, dang it. They were always like, we got this babe, like it's okay. Like they were staying so positive. And it was a sweet tender moment at the end with them as well.
Yeah, loved it.
Yeah.
One thing that's special about this competition is the bonds that you get such bonds with your competitors, and you get so sad when you see your competitors eliminated. You see their dream end. Like I remember the first time a team that we'd had a really tight bond with got eliminated. It was Joe and Ian when we were in India.
Yeah.
We were devastated when they got eliminated, and then it just kept happening.
Yeah.
And it's like, now I know not every season's exactly like that, but I don't know of another show that's that much like that, where you care so much about the people that you want to beat.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, you don't get to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Is the hardest part.
They're gone.
They sort of just vanish.
Yeah.
And so that was so crazy.
Were you surprised that this was a non-elimination leg prior with no consequence? Like, did they tell you that when you arrived on the mat? Like, how did that go down?
I don't think
so.
They told us
the previous leg in Italy, they just said it was a non-elimination leg. I don't think
they told you that was the twist, because you arrive on the mat, you realize there's been no twist, and they told you.
Yes, they told us. Yeah.
But I don't think we realized there was no consequence. That was sort of a question mark in the air that people had been considering. And then, of course, like if you're like an ultra fan, you know that the non-elimination legs in like seasons 1 through 4 did not have speed bumps.
Right.
In later seasons, they did. I think
they took money, they took clothes, like they did
yeah,
all kinds of weird
there were
stuff.
so many questions, but yeah, so that was sort of a surprise for everyone as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about a lot of legwork you guys have been doing. We've got a really exciting week coming up.
Thank you for putting this together, guys.
Tell us more about the New York City finale.
I am so excited. Yeah, I mean, we were debating all together as a group, like, should we get together for the premiere, the finale, and obviously, like, you know, there's a lot of people around here. Like, Brooklyn's the only place with 2 people. Josiah and Alyssa are in Philly, so really close, and so, but I'm so excited. Most of the cast is flying out. It's gonna be. We've got some surprises in the works. We've got
my gosh.
Yes, and a lot of the like past racers. Like there's a big race community here as well, and so it's been so cool to get to know them. And I'm excited. Like now, Ricky and Cesar and Rohan and Brooke, they come every week to watch with us.
That's so cool.
I love it.
Beautiful, and so yeah, I'm so like weirdly I'm excited. Like I'm trying to tell them like these are our friends, like, but I'm also like now I'm telling you like these are our friends.
Yeah,
like,
you get to introduce us to like the 2 groups that you've been like, you know, preparing all season long. I think another thing, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I feel like this is another Amazing Race first. I can't think of another time where they've done back-to-back episode nights.
I know.
Yeah,
and it's because we have 12 episodes to air, and we can't compete with Survivor on their finale. So we get a Wednesday, Thursday night, and people that want to buy tickets, they can go on TAR37.eventbrite.com. That's the one. And it's going to get you a ticket, but you're going to get for $10, you're going to get both nights. So
that's right. Yeah.
Pretty exciting.
And you get to meet us.
Hang out with all of us.
That's right. Yes. And I'm so I think it's actually great. I know it's because of probably like scheduling with other shows or whatever, but I'm like so excited that it's a 2-day event. Like it feels so grand. It feels so like exciting. Like make it worthwhile too for like people to come out. And I'm so pumped about it.
Well, let's talk about briefly. They've already introed the 2 episode titles. We've got some press picks already, but the episode 11 is going to be My Knight in Shining Armor. Sorry to spoil this for you, Joel, but you are on the recap, so that's your fault. They're not staying in Strasbourg. They are going to Portugal.
Oh my
for
gosh.
more medieval experiences.
And that's Carson, right?
That is Carson being knighted.
Carson.
He is living his
Your dreams are coming true.
His Dungeons and Dragons nerd dreams. Come on.
This picture, there's another one. There's another one too of this in this moment of me in this gear.
Is it you in the archery?
Yes, I woke up and it was the first thing I saw when I woke up. I like looked at Discord and immediately I texted Jack the picture. I'm like, this, like, put this on my tombstone. Like it is like this is for me to be wearing full knight armor. Obviously, I can't say anything about
Can't tell us any spoilers.
Anything.
Be careful.
In what this entails.
CBS watches our recaps.
Listen,
not.
I'm not saying anything about nothing about, but all I'm seeing now is me in that armor, and I'm saying that's cool.
Well, and I have to take it full circle for just a moment. I don't know who caught it, but if you remember back to a certain moment in LA at the start line, there was somebody who did a whole like archery thing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, did you manifest this, Jack? Like,
I don't know. I mean, also you don't see this very often, but because they don't play the full intro now, but our intro.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you saw it in the head-to-head. I did it in the head-to-head.
Yeah. Manifesting. But yeah.
But
so cool.
Jack, how sad were you that it wasn't you in the armor and it was your partner?
Maybe he does also. We don't know.
We don't know.
Who knows?
Okay,
I think you guys.
Like it's just Carson. I'm
We
sorry.
can't
We'll have
talk.
to find out.
I wonder if you'll find out.
Text me later. Text me later, Jack. Text me later.
All right. And then, not to be outdone, the very next night, Thursday night on May 15th, we are going to be in Miami, baby. And they don't have any press picks yet, so I had to go classic, old school style back in my childhood.
But this is going to be Jack and Carson's Halloween
Next
costume.
Halloween. Who did it
This
better?
Halloween.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
Before we wrap up, I just want to give you guys a huge shout out. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day, coming on this recap with us. We have enjoyed talking about the Amazing Race, even after we've been out of the season. But being able to talk with people like you, share ideas, and this fun excitement that we have for this show. But I do want you, as we get a chance to kind of wrap up, if there's anything coming up that you're working on, I want to hear about future projects and stuff.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I mean, it's a complete honor. Like it's so like Joel was saying, the bond that you make with not just obviously people that you ran the race with, but even like Joel, we meet today on Zoom and I'm like, Joel, I know you so well. It's like there's a bond, and so it's like it's always lovely to come together. So thank you for having us. It's like such a pleasure. But in terms of projects, I think like it's been such a I don't know if you've thought of anything, but I feel like this is totally consumed this portion of our lives. And I'm kind of excited we're starting to get sad a little bit for it ending too, but but when the season's done, I think I'm excited to sort of sit and be like, now what, right? Like, we haven't really conceptualized much because we're conceptualizing still, like every week.
We're still living in the present.
Yeah. But
I would say follow Dweeb Wars.
Yes.
That is our nerd podcast where we talk about nerdy stuff all the time. So if you're a big nerd, come be a big nerd with us.
Definitely.
But that's probably the place.
Yeah. And it's been crazy too, actually, on our podcast, like the sort of changing. Like some people are like, I found you through the Amazing Race, and now I'm obsessed that you're talking about
nerd stuff,
D&D or video games or whatever. But the opposite has actually happened to quite a few times now, which is really rewarding as well. Is that people have been like, I've been watching your podcast weekly, and now I'm watching the Amazing Race
for the first
like,
time.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so it's been so beautiful to be able to we were sort of nervous going into it, being like, is it going to be crazy to sort of produce both content on this one channel? And it's been such a beautiful sort of mixing of communities over there, which is cool.
Well, and I have to give you a huge shout out. The two of you organized our first Among Us streaming game.
That was fun.
We have to do that again. We have game nights. Like I feel like TAR needs game nights, and it doesn't have to be just our season. We can extend it to other alumni to play.
So fun.
But let's have more of that on Dweeb Wars too. So, but Joel, what are you working on? Can you spill yet about your upcoming project?
So Smythe and I we both have a few Guinness World Records in the works this year that will, for the first time, put a record on my wall that's not related to my beard. I don't know to the extent that I can talk about it.
I didn't know.
There's going to be 2 records this year that we're going to break, and I'm excited about both of them. One of them is going to be pretty huge, I think.
And I think that's the one that Scott and I are going to go to that help one with, place right? to help you with, right?
Yeah, we did give you guys some details.
Just some not a lot. You couldn't tell us a lot, but there was something about we might be able to help in the process of the flow of things.
Yeah, and I'll just say it's going to happen in the Sin City. That's where it will take place.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I know. Exciting.
More to come on that. Stay tuned, please.
So where can fans catch more information? Is it going to be on your Instagram? Do they follow you on your Instagram, on your YouTube? Where do they go?
Instagram, YouTube, you take your pick. Yeah. And then both have the same name, so it makes it easy.
True.
I am so intrigued. I'm like, I need to know what's going down in the Sin City with y'all.
Because I can't put it out there to everybody.
Yeah. I would love to know.
Yeah.
Maybe join us in Sin City and you can help.
Yes.
It's something that we could use some help with if you want to make that trip. Let's talk.
Well, and we gave you Mark and Brett's info because they live there.
I know.
True.
Okay, and we were in Vegas recently preparing for said event, and we got in touch with them. Unfortunately, they were out of town that week.
They were out of town.
Yeah, you know, the thing you should know about us, like, you don't even have to tell us what it is. Like, we're there.
We're out on it.
Yeah, love it. Well, guys, we're gonna wrap it up. We've gone way over, but I think this was time well spent. I think the fans will love it. They'll enjoy it. But tune in next week. We're gonna have that super awesome finale. And if you happen to be in the New York area, please get a ticket, stop by, spend some time with us. Like, it's just gonna be a great fan moment. Oh, and I'll tease this at the very end. I think that we're gonna have some extra special guests that haven't been announced yet that might be joining us in Orlando. Keep watching. So, all right, guys. Love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.